Everybody ready? Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, August 1st Board of County Commissioners meeting. We do begin each of our meetings with an invocation, and today we have Bernadette Wilkie with Boulder Street Church to lead us. Please join if you would like.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, adopted in 1876, the preamble of our Colorado State Constitution begins with, "We, the people of the state of Colorado, with profound reverence for the supreme ruler of the universe." This morning, 147 years later, we still gather to perform the business of governing your people. And as part of this work, we begin today with profound reverence for the supreme ruler of the universe. We are thankful for all you have provided for us and thankful for all the ways you have, protected us. We are thankful for our constitutional republic and the precious freedoms you, Lord, have secured for us. We pray for your continued blessing and guidance as we pray for godly wisdom and justice. And we recognize that your divine strength and rule are the source of all that is good in our city, county, and state. We ask your protection and blessings over our schools and teachers, our law enforcement, military, healthcare workers, and first responders. Bless the businesses, families, and churches, in our county. For our government leaders, we ask that you lead them into all truth, wisdom, and revelation as they lead us and govern the affairs of El Paso County. We ask for your abiding peace and that you help us to love, honor, and respect each other as a community, united by our common goals and our profound reverence for you. We pray all this in your most holy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the United States to the republic.
Thank you, Sheriff. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is staff emergency items, and there are none today.
Item number 4.
Item number 4 is changes, postponements, and notice of the next meeting. I'm not aware of any changes to today's agenda. Our next meeting will be today, August 1st at 1:00 p.m. for land use matters.
And before I move on to item number 5, can I confirm that we have Commissioner Geithner on Teams? Okay, excellent. So no need to excuse anyone. Item number 5.
Item number 5 is the consent calendar, inclusive of items 5A through 5Q7.
Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on any item on the consent calendar? Hearing none, I will bring it up here for comments and/or a motion.
Move to approve items 5A through 5Q7.
I will second that.
That has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner online. Aye. Commissioner Geithner, I don't think we have sound right now. Can you give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Excellent. We're going to count that as a yes from Commissioner Geithner, and the chair votes aye. The consent calendar passes 5-0. Item number 6.
Item number 6, proclamation recognizing National Night Out 2023. Holly Williams, Commissioner, Board of County Commissioners.
If anyone here for the reading of this proclamation would like to make your way towards the podium, while the proclamation is being read, that would be great.
I move the following proclamation recognizing National Night Out 2023. Whereas the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, in partnership with the National Association of Town Watch, NATW, is sponsoring a positive, proactive nationwide crime, drug, and violence prevention program on August 1st, 2023, entitled National Night Out. And whereas the 39th annual National Night Out is a wonderful opportunity for El Paso County to join forces with thousands of other communities across the country in promoting cooperative police community crime prevention efforts. And whereas neighborhood watch groups play a vital role in assisting the El Paso County Sheriff's Office and its many law enforcement partners throughout the region in their collaborative efforts to prevent crime and prosecute criminals. And whereas all El Paso County residents can have a positive impact on our community through their participation in community crime prevention programs that are proven effective tools in reducing crime and violence and breaking the destructive stranglehold of substance abuse and illegal drug trade that leads to the breakdown of families, crowds our jail cells, puts great strain on all El Paso County human services, criminal justice, and public safety resources. Whereas police community partnerships, neighborhood safety, awareness, and cooperation are the key themes of the National Night Out program, and the keys to success in maintaining safe, vibrant, and attractive neighborhoods that are essential to our quality of life. Whereas the El Paso County Sheriff's Office Community Relations and Outreach Unit continuously strives to build and maintain relationships and partnerships with residents through community programs and outreach events publicized on their website and social media outlets. And whereas neighborhood watch groups throughout El Paso County have planned events to come together to enjoy food and fellowship and to meet their neighbors and local law enforcement officers. And now, therefore, the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, does hereby call upon all citizens of El Paso County to join the El Paso County Sheriff's Office in supporting and participating in this unique nationwide crime, drug, and violence prevention program on August 1st, 2023. Done this first day of August 2023 at Colorado Springs, Colorado. The Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado. Carrie Bremer, Chair. Carrie Geithner, Vice Chair. Lojinos Gonzalez, Jr., Member. Stan Vanderwerf, Member. And Holly Williams, Member. Attested to by Steve Schleicher, County Clerk and Recorder.
I will second that with a correction to the first name, Cammie Bremer. Thank you very much. That has been moved and seconded. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item today? Sheriff Robo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Williams, for reading that proclamation. I'm excited about today's event, but this is just one night. This is just one day where the Sheriff's Office is partnering with the community and things we've been doing all year. We have a strategic plan moving forward, and we've been very intentional this year increasing our participation in community events. You've seen my horses around the county a lot more lately. I'm a big mounted unit fan, so I'm looking to increase that. You've seen my canines out. We have purchased 2 dogs this year. They're almost done with their training. So we've been out in the community. I have members of my office who do this year round, not as their official capacity, but as good neighbors. And today we're going to encourage those neighbors as they get out and meet each other, sometimes for the first time, get to know each other, because what makes strong communities and strong, safe neighborhoods is for the neighbors to know one another and trust one another. You know, be that neighbor, if the garage door's open, to make that call. Hey, is your garage door open? Did you intend to leave it open? I myself have received those calls. Hey, Joe, do you know your garage door is open? No, I do not. Let me go close it. We encourage that. You'll see members of my staff at every location around the county, unincorporated county, this evening, encouraging that participation with the neighbors and giving some friendly advice on how to keep your neighborhoods whole and safe. So thank you for this, Commissioners.
Thank you, Sheriff. Would you like to introduce your team really quickly? And if any of them would like to speak,
Yes.
they're certainly welcome to. But we'd love to know who we have here today.
I have my undersheriff, Jeff Kramer. Bureau Chief Scott Dino, he's responsible for the jail. Bureau Chief Andy Pram, he's responsible for admin. Commander Cy Gillespie, investigations. Commander Ray Bernier, patrol. And Bureau Chief Andy James.
Excellent. Thank you for being here today. Are there any comments from commissioners? Who wants to kick it off? Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad that we're here, glad we have a proclamation. It's a great event. I also appreciate, Sheriff, that you do this year-round. So this is, National Night Out, I think, is a celebration of what you do year-round. And it is so important. It's so important for law enforcement, no matter who they are, to just be involved in the community. And I know you do so much about all of that. Because when we've got a good relationship between law enforcement and the people that live here, we have a healthy community. So I just want to know that I would love to go. I don't know if you have a series of events that night, but if you might talk about one or two of them, because if I can squeeze a little time in, I just might show up if you'd like me to be there. So what do you have going on that night?
Absolutely. Tonight we have citizen hosts throughout the county. So we have some addresses, and we can get a list to the board. After we're done here, I'll have Cassandra give you a list, and each one of my command staff members will be at a different host family. So what it is you have a host family who opens up their home. Last year I was out in Falcon, and this person had this garage. Turns out the back of the garage was like a Mustang museum. It was awesome. I had no idea, and I got really lucky. I'm a car guy. I spent time talking to the neighbors and talking to the host about his cars and his Shelby Mustangs, and it was awesome, and the trophies he won. So it's interesting to get to know the people. So we'll absolutely get you a list of which families are going to have the events, and if it's close to your district, come on by. I think I'll be near Commissioner Williams' district this evening, so we'll get those to you, Commissioner.
Great. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Geithner.
Can you guys hear me?
Do we have any sound for Commissioner Geithner in the auditorium?
I'm going to try again. Can you hear me?
Commissioner Geithner, we can't hear you. We'll let AV try to get that going, and we'll go to Commissioner Gonzalez next.
No, thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want to thank you for helping to organize all this, put it out, and so that we can remind the citizens, the community, the relationships and the strong relationships that law enforcement, first responders have with our community, and the importance of being able to talk to each other and understand what's going on in our neighborhoods, and so that we can make sure that we have safe neighborhoods. And so this is, I think, very valuable, and appreciate all the work that you're doing this today and every day. Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Commissioner Geithner, shall we try again?
Can you hear me now?
No, we can't, but I'm pretty good at reading lips. Okay. We'll try one more time. I'll give my comments really quickly too. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for, again, it is an everyday thing that, we talk a lot up here about partnerships and how critical those are really between nonprofits, businesses, the government sector, everybody. And you all embody that. And that's, I think, what this night is about. It's about the partnerships that we have with our neighbors, with the organizations that take care of each other. And I will be, I'm not sure who from your team I'll be joining at Park Vista this evening, but that's always a great time. And I've heard quite the testimonial of how the Sheriff's Department has helped with a wanderer in that neighborhood, and always has that connection, knows how to get that person back home safely. And it's all about your officers really just knowing knowing how to connect and who people are and the presence there in that neighborhood. I hear all the time how much it is appreciated. So thank you. And I will see somebody tonight at Park Vista as I get out and see those neighbors again. Looking forward to it. Thank you for all you do. Commissioner
Thank
Geithner, we'll try one more time.
Can you hear me now?
I'm pretty good at reading lips. I think what she says is I'm very appreciative of Sheriff Roybal. He's the best. That's all I got.
All right. The sheriff put some words in your mouth there, Commissioner Geithner. Let's try one more time. I think it's just the sound in the auditorium, and perhaps it's going out online.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank
I'm
you.
also on Teams, so.
Commissioner Williams.
Well, in addition to what Commissioner Geithner said, because I know she appreciates you very much, we really appreciate the sheriff's efforts, especially in Falcon and especially in Security Widefield. Those are both unincorporated areas of our county that have a lot of people. And so you probably, I suspect the deputies spend a little bit more time out there. And so I won't put words in Commissioner Geithner's mouth, but I will say we really do appreciate all of the time spent in the districts out east and in Falcon and in Black Forest. I've even almost been caught speeding once there. Slowed down just in time, thank heavens. And but I also wanted to talk to you about the importance of neighborhoods being involved in the policing. We have Woodmore Public Safety up in my district. They cannot do arrests or some of the normal things police officers do, but they do vacation checks on the homes when people go out of town. It really helps the homeowners to feel safer. And in my own neighborhood, when I moved in there, I do believe that I lowered the age by about 10, 20 years, me and my husband. But now we have a young family there. But I frequently have been the recipient of a text message that says, Holly, you've left your garage door open, or someone knocking on the door. We keep a close eye on each other, and it's a wonderful neighborhood to live in because of that. Now that we have a young family in there, it's even more fascinating because now we're all having to keep an eye out for the kids as we drive around our neighborhood a little bit more often, and it's fun to have a young family. So thank you for all your efforts you do to keep our citizens safe. Thank you for doing this year-round, not just on one day a year, but also thank you for always being in our community.
Thanks, Commissioner. Of course, it's me and my command staff up here this morning, excuse me, but it's every day, that our deputies are out there in those neighborhoods contacting the citizens of El Paso County. Not all pleasant, but we try to make every interaction as pleasant as we possibly can. So they really get the credit with establishing those relationships with the community and serving them, and I couldn't be more proud of them.
Thank you, Sheriff. I think we'll try one more time. Commissioner Geithner.
Can you hear me?
Okay. That has been moved and seconded. If I could get Commissioner Geithner's camera back up on the screen, we can at least do the thumbs up, thumbs down on this non-contentious vote here. Okay. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
All right. The chair votes aye, and that passes 4-0. Do we have an aye vote via? Excuse me. You know what? We could, I think we have the sheriff that needs to get to another event. And so we're going to call that a 4-0 vote with Commissioner Geithner absent. And then we're going to take a quick recess to see if we can fix the audio. This 4-0, we'll take a quick photo and a recess.
Test 1, 2,
That's
3.
good. Reach over this way just a little bit.
Great. Test 1, 2, 3. It should be
This
coming
way.
in.
These three move this way. There you go. Good job.
Dex.
Check there. Check 1, 2, 3.
Okay, thank you for your patience. I will call this meeting back to order, and we are on item number 7.
Item number 7, comments by elected officials and commissioner liaison reports.
And just to make sure we have the sound on, we will begin with Commissioner Geithner if she is ready. Commissioner Geithner.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
There we go.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, fantastic. Good morning. I'm so sorry that I'm not there in person. Unfortunately, I'm not feeling well today, but wanted to make sure I got online to do the most important business, but hopefully maintaining my colleagues' health by not being there in person. So being that that is the case, though I have several meetings this week, we'll have to see a little bit how it goes, including as I'm pulling up my information here, but including, of course, the redistricting meeting that we have tomorrow, and also a couple of constituent meetings this week. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Williams.
Well, good morning. It is Colorado Day. I don't know if anyone caught that in the invocation, but August 1st is actually Colorado Day. Happy birthday, Colorado, 147 years. I do want to thank really the army of community members and elected officials of both Republican and Democrats and unaffiliateds that carried our banner for Colorado Springs and El Paso County when it came to Space Command locating in Colorado Springs. As an insider that didn't take an active role but watched many, many members, I'd like to thank, of course, Governor Polis, Mayor Suthers, the City Council, the County Commissioners, the Chamber of Commerce, our Defense Mission Task Force, our Military Affairs Council. I know that Commissioner Gonzalez and Commissioner Bremer were at the announcement yesterday. I know that Commissioner Vanderwerf has worked very hard on this issue as well. And some staff behind the scenes, including Ryan Parcell and Brandon Wilson. I'm sorry, everybody is having a different name today. I apologize for that. It's pretty amazing when you pull all of these individuals together in a unified message to watch how they lobbied for this decision. everybody speaking together, working together to make what is the right decision to place Space Command here and save our federal government tremendous amounts of money so that we can actually try to cut our spending and try to take the burden off our taxpayers as opposed to moving it to a different state. So I just wanted to thank everyone for their efforts in that. This week, we have 2 redistricting commissions, one on Wednesday and one on Friday. And then we also have, on Thursday, I have the Statewide Transportation Advisory Committee and the Department of Public Works Employee Appreciation Picnic. We'll see how well those compete together, as the meeting in Denver is an in-person attendance meeting. And those are my events for this week. Plus, I'm sorry, I have the Hummingbird Festival in Fox Run Park on Friday and Saturday. So one of my favorite parks I'll be happy to get out to. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So just a couple of quick updates. Appreciated the great work that all of us commissioners did at the National Association of Counties National Convention. There was some good work done there by us all, and that was really awesome. And just didn't get a chance to comment publicly about holding on the Space Command here in Colorado Springs, but that is the right thing to do. It would have cost $10 billion in the fiscal year defense plan for the Department of Defense, which is a 10-year plan, to move it. And that $10 billion would have delivered no additional capability for anybody. So it was just moving a deck chair around. That would be very expensive and would not have delivered any more capability. So that was a taxpayer burden that was unnecessary. And also, in the process of doing the move, we would have been distracted right at a time when we have some pretty significant international threats that we need to worry about. So I'm glad that it is staying here in Colorado Springs. It's the right thing for everybody. Also, this last weekend, a couple of days ago, I attended the Experimental Aircraft Association National Convention in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Just love to go to that thing, and I'm just an airplane buff, and I think they have 10,000 airplanes there at that event and 600,000 attendees. So it's just a huge event. It's the biggest air show in the United States, so I just really enjoy it. All right, as far as events coming up, Thursday this week, I'll also be going to the Employee Appreciation Lunch at our Acres facility. And on Friday at 1 p.m., I'm going to take a tour of the Space ISAC at the National Cybersecurity Center. And on 3 August, I think that's this Thursday at 5:30, I'll be going to the Milton Proby Heritage induction ceremony. And that will be a great event. And then I believe tonight is the Cinco de Mayo Scholarship Awards celebration at Penrose, and I'll go there for a short time and participate in that, and I'm looking forward to seeing who the winners are, the Scholarship Award winners are this time. So that'll be my events for this week. Thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to also start off by thanking the Air Force for what I believe was making the right decision in keeping Space Command here in Colorado Springs. It's already been mentioned, but I think it should be mentioned. It's a huge, big deal for our national security and national defense. And for those reasons, I believe it was the right decision. I want to thank all our partners who fought for this outcome, especially our congressional delegation, the county commissioners, and the staff who worked on this, and our lobbyists who advocated, and the commissioners and staff who advocated at every opportunity on this for this outcome. The City of Colorado Springs, City Council, and the Mayor, and the Chamber, and all the other government entities, local and statewide, who really came together to make this happen. And it was a true team effort that ensured that this was the right outcome. Came out yesterday, and so I was very happy to see that. And again, just so happy to see the El Paso County being one of the leaders and heavy lifters on this, as well as the Chamber and others who really focused and brought us all together on this. So as for events coming up, I too tonight will be going to the Cinco de Mayo Inc.'s annual scholarship reception tonight. We get to meet the individual winners face to face and get to meet with them. We did see them at the Cinco de Mayo dinner, but this is our opportunity to actually get to know them one-on-one and all the great things they'll be doing for us as the next generation of leaders for our community. Thursday night, the Milton E. Proby as well induction ceremony, and then Monday, I'll be participating in the Region 16 Opioid Council meeting. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you. I just asked the chair for a quick alibi on the Space Command, and it was something that Commissioner Gonzalez mentioned that I thought would be appropriate to expand on a little bit, and that's also to personally thank the staff of El Paso County, the team from El Paso County, for being a key part of retaining Space Command. And sometimes the county doesn't get that kind of credit. It seems to fall on other participants when we team up as a team, but I just want everybody to know that the county played a great role, and that included efforts from several members of the team, but I can tell you for myself, over a series of different visits, usually doing it in conjunction with a NATO meeting, a NACO meeting or something, I personally met with 30 senators and congressmen or their staffs, talking about the merits about why Space Command really needs to stay in Colorado Springs. So we played a significant role as part of a broader team, and I appreciate Commissioner Gonzalez mentioning that, and I felt I needed to emphasize it a little more. Thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And now Commissioner Vanderwerf has reminded me, because it's already been 2 weeks since we canceled last week's meeting, the National Association of Counties meeting. I thought it went well. I thought your El Paso County, our residents were represented well, outstandingly, with the efforts done by the county, and we did get a resolution passed, and this is the staff that made that happen, and so I really want to highlight Ryan Parcells and Brandon Wilson for the efforts and strong efforts that really allowed that to happen. At large national scale stage, we saw the influence of El Paso County at NACO. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I wanted to add to, I have some prepared comments that I'll move on to in just a second, but I specifically wanted to thank our congressional delegation from Colorado, Senators Bennett and Hickenlooper, our Governor Polis, and our local Congressman Doug Lamborn. They were all working together pretty seamlessly with a unified message to ensure that we could celebrate Space Force calling Colorado Springs home yesterday. It was a great day indeed for the United States, our military, and our community. U.S. Space Command will be staying in Colorado Springs, and that will result, as you've heard from my colleagues, in standing up more quickly and better protecting our nation from the threats of today and tomorrow. It will also continue to grow our community and our local economy for decades to come. And your county commissioners take seriously our responsibility to ensure that we are the best host community for the country and deserving of having the honor of hosting the defenders of our nation. Switching gears, I want to say that the redistricting process for your county commission has been both difficult and rewarding. Many impassioned citizens have attended our meetings to contribute their opinions. Most have been respectful. The diverse dialogue has improved the quality and ability of us as a redistricting commission to understand the views of all of our constituents and work towards a solution that is best for our community. The process of government and governance is sometimes messy, but broadening participation will always improve the outcomes. With this said, I'm disappointed that the Colorado Republican Party, with the full support of El Paso County GOP, is attempting to eliminate the participation of nearly 3 million Coloradans in the electoral process. This weekend, the Colorado GOP will take the first step in a legally questionable process of canceling the Republican primary in 2024, and thus drastically limiting participation in our political processes. This will not impact me in any way, as it's my final term in office, and my successor will be chosen in 2026. However, I oppose the attempt by unelected party bosses to determine who will serve our citizens in elected office. This privilege is reserved for the common citizen, not the political elites. I oppose all efforts to limit public participation and believe Colorado will be better served to have more citizens involved instead of fewer. My colleagues have gone through the calendar. Many of these engagements overlap each other. I also, in addition to those, I have a couple of speaking engagements this week, one to welcome Rocky Mountain Kiwanis. They are having their regional annual meeting here in Colorado Springs, and then also to send off and congratulate and thank a group of interns from all over the country and a couple of international ones who have been part of the Colorado Springs Chamber of Commerce's intern program, helping local businesses this year. So looking forward to both of those opportunities. And again, I will also be with the neighbors at Park Vista for Neighborhood Night Out this evening. With that, any other comments? Any other redos? Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I normally don't do this, but thank you for indulging me. I just wanted to express my appreciation to the chair for her comments with regard to what the local Republican, what the state Republican Party is intending on doing this Saturday. I support and endorse your comments. I think it is not acceptable to go through the process this weekend of having a vote for any central committee member if they don't show up to the meeting, that their vote counts as a yes in a board meeting. I've never heard of that before. That doesn't make any sense to me. It is in fact a violation of Robert's Rules of Order and might not even be legal, as you mentioned. So I just want to add my name to the opposition of this activity, and would encourage the state party to categorically and overwhelmingly reject the vote that will take on this topic that will take place this Saturday. Thank you, and I appreciate your comments, Madam Chair.
Any other elected officials online? Any countywides? Okay, item number 8.
Item number 8 is community service organization reports, and there are none.
Item 9.
Item number 9, public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda. This is the public's opportunity to comment on an item that is not on the agenda today. Madam Chair, I didn't see anyone sign in before the meeting.
Do we have anyone in the audience wishing to speak on any item not on the agenda? Hearing none in the audience. Anyone online? Okay, item number 10.
Item number 10 is the called up consent calendar, and there are no items called up today.
Item 11.
Item number 11, resolution consenting to inclusion of the City of Fountain in the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority. Joshua Palmer, County Engineer, Department of Public Works. Kenneth Hodges, County Attorney.
Mr. Hodges.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair on the screen, and Commissioners. I'm here with Josh Palmer today to give a very brief presentation about the request from the City of Fountain to join the PPRTA. I would also note that Fountain representatives are actually in the audience as well, and they may want to address a couple of points along with us. With that, I will jump right in. It's, again, a very brief PowerPoint. Blake, if I could have the PowerPoint.
Mr. Hodges, could you clarify the name of?
I believe that it's PPRTA.pptx.
At the very bottom of the screen?
Correct. That would be it. Thank you. Okay, so again, Commissioners, to tear through fairly quickly, before you is a resolution that, if approved, would approve of the City of Fountain joining the PPRTA. Can I have the next slide? So as a quick outline of the procedure to join, again, from a legal perspective, the fifth amended PPRTA intergovernmental agreement includes Colorado Springs, Manitou Springs, Green Mountain Falls, Calhoun, and Rama. City of Fountain has requested to be added by resolution that was passed on May 23rd, 2023. The PPRTA Board of Directors referred Fountain's request to join by its resolution on June 14th, 2023. Under Section 12.3 of the IGA, the fifth amended IGA for the PPRTA, would require that Fountain may only become a party to the establishing IGA if all of the current parties were to unanimously approve the consent to that addition. Consent's accomplished by a majority vote of each of the existing governing bodies, and assuming unanimous consent, then Fountain would place the question of inclusion on the ballot in November with approval resulting from a majority vote. To accommodate timelines, PPRTA's attorney has asked if we could get back to them by tomorrow, August 2nd. Next slide. As far as the voting effect of an additional smaller municipality joining the PPRTA, currently we do have a weighted voting system in place that for the smaller jurisdictions, and those are listed out on this slide, there would be 0.75 or 3/4 of a vote for each of their representatives. If an additional party joins the agreement, again, this is the existing agreement, it doesn't require an amendment to the IGA, that would actually be lowered to 60% of a vote for each of those smaller jurisdictions, including Fountain. Next slide. Our next slide is a very difficult to read and very short version of the financial impact of the City of Fountain joining the PPRTA. Lori Cleaton, who's been great to work with, is here to answer any questions on this slide. What I would ask is that Mr. Palmer and I just finish out the PowerPoint, and then we could call Ms. Cleaton down if there are any questions. So with that, next slide. I'll get out of your way.
Good morning, Josh Palmer, County Engineer. Excuse me. So I'd just like to point out, PPRTA is a regional program. El Paso County, the City of Colorado Springs, and the City of Fountain account for a pretty significant, if not majority, of a portion of the expected growth in the future. There's really nowhere to go but east and southeast, which is El Paso County, City of Colorado Springs, City of Fountain. We do have future projects that directly affect the City of Fountain. Probably one of the most important and highly visible projects being the South Powers extension. Early on in that project, going through the feasibility study, the environmental linkage study. But eventually, South Powers will connect at some point along I-25, and it will run right through City of Fountain. The county is always looking for opportunities to coordinate, communicate, and partner with other agencies, and that includes annexations, property acquisitions, transactions, and then there also is the opportunity for joint projects. The county has been very successful with the City of Colorado Springs through PPRTA with our joint projects, both with RTA 1 and RTA 2, and the planned projects, approved projects for RTA 3, most notably, again, the Powers extension to the north. So having the City of Fountain as a member agency with PPRTA would definitely benefit the region and benefit the county in potential joint projects in the future. As everybody knows, there is a checkerboard of ownership throughout the county when it comes to our roads. Ownership changes back and forth between different agencies. Having the City of Fountain as part of PPRTA would make it, would benefit in the economy of scale when it comes to some of our projects. Partnering with the City of Fountain on any potential projects could save money in the long term when it comes to the cost and overall scope for many of these projects. And I just listed a few of the obvious mixed ownership: Mark Scheffel, Fontaine, Peaceful Valley, Old Pueblo. The list goes on and on. Being able to have the City of Fountain as a member agency with PPRTA would definitely benefit the region and benefit the county when it comes to potential agreements and projects on some of these roads. And while admittedly, there would be less money, as Lori would be able to speak to, for the county going forward. I think whatever we may lose in yearly revenue through this program would probably be made up for in the economies of scale and savings and headache and time spent in trying to work with one of our partners who is not part of RTA currently. So those are some of the benefits. Next slide. That may be it for me. There you go. That's it for me. But definitely, I think there's a benefit to the city of Fountain joining. It goes a long way practically, logically, and so I think it's definitely a benefit to the region and to the county.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from commissioners or comments? Okay, do I hear a motion?
Well, I do have some comments and a motion, but I don't know if we need to call the City of Fountain down or not.
Madam Chair, that's, I was just going to remind you, I know the City of Fountain is present.
you.
I didn't know if they had comments as well.
If there's anyone here who would like to speak on this item, please come on down. Okay. For the record, if you wouldn't mind walking down and stating your name and that, so that we do have that on the record. Okay. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Any other?
Scott Trainer, City Manager, City of Fountain. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here today. And anyone online wishing to speak on this item? Okay. I'll bring it back here for a motion and discussion.
Okay, so I would move to include the City of Fountain into the Pikes Peak RTA.
And I'll second.
Any further discussion or comments? Commissioner Geithner?
Yes, I would just like to kind of emphasize that this is a regional approach to transportation. And there was some mention to how it affects the balance that we at El Paso County get. And I think there's been a lot of discussion about what those formulas look like. But at the end of the day, this is an opportunity for us all to come together and care about our region and care about the impact that can have positively across El Paso County, and then that includes Fountain. So I am in support of this and look forward to voting in the affirmative.
Any other comments? Commissioner Williams?
So as I mentioned earlier, I serve on the Statewide Transportation Advisory Committee for the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. And just in speaking about transportation over the past 30 years, the Statewide Transportation Advisory Committee can become very frustrating because you have so few projects coming up. I remember in the early 1990s having just 4 lanes through from Garden of the Gods all the way down to the Circle or the Martin Luther King Parkway. It was backlogged every single day. It took us 10 years. We even ran a ballot issue supported by then Congressman Heffley to put a special tax just to get I-25 through Colorado Springs. A lot of people will say, well, Colorado has all of this marijuana money. Why aren't you putting it into roads? I do remember looking up at the state legislature where the marijuana sales tax is spent, and roads are number 10. And that's how I frequently feel attending the Transportation Advisory Committee. Right now, we're going through the different pots of money that can feed into the transportation system. Just 1 month ago, we finally put out to bid, the Colorado Department of Transportation put out to bid the last lane, which is an on-off ramp between Fillmore and Garden of the Gods. If you will notice, there's a funnel there every day. It slows down because there is not a continuous on-off ramp lane. And so I feel like for 30 years, we've been watching this slow movement of road improvements. And then I go to the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority meeting, and it is fun. I will tell you how many roads get done, how many projects get done. It is just so amazing to see the accountability to our citizens for those taxpayer dollars that they've entrusted us in. And it is amazing to see the hard work of all of the engineers, of the entities, and the governing bodies from El Paso County to Calhan to Rama to the city of Colorado Springs, spending that money correctly and with great accountability. And it is an example, anytime I go to the statewide Transportation Advisory Committee, I am always mentioning the latest Pikes Peak RTA project and recommending to other communities they consider this. So that's why I'm excited that we get Fountain in. I think we'll be doing a lot of good work in the Fountain area, and I hope that the voters will, again, this is a process that has to go on the ballot, so I hope the voters will seriously consider adding Fountain into the Pikes Peak RTA. Thank you.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the comments from Commissioner Williams. And, you know, transportation is an integrated system. So I think that this is a great step forward for further integration in a local area. And I believe that kind of our local collaboration is key to why a local community or a regional area succeeds. There are so many times when we really just have to rely on ourselves to do the work that we need for our citizens, because sometimes we can't rely on Denver or sometimes we can't rely on the federal government. So the fact that we've had PPRTA, that the voters voted it in and have overwhelmingly continued to support it in subsequent ballot measures, I think speaks volumes to what the citizens really want, which is local money for local roads. There have been times in the past where we have paid state taxes, and some of that should have come back to our community in state roads, and it didn't. Now, the good news is right now, it looks like the state is investing well in our community. That's great. But there have been times in the past when they haven't. And during those times, it was PPRTA that saved us. It's what saved us in order to continue to develop our road infrastructure system. So I look forward to the voters voting in favor of Fountain joining PPRTA. And I will support this vote. Thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez. You're good. Just some final comments. It's been well said by my colleagues that this is a regional, PPRTA is a regional approach to transportation issues. And more and more we're seeing, you know, I know Mr. Palmer's slide said less money for El Paso County was the bottom little bullet there. And at the end of the day, those areas that were previously in our purview as unincorporated areas are increasingly more incorporated. And so I think that this is a way to ensure that that taxpayer dollar is used efficiently and in a coordinated way, and that everyone is able to take care of the things that are actually in their jurisdiction, but it's in a coordinated way that minimizes that patchwork, as Mr. Palmer also referenced. So I'm excited about this as well, and best wishes. Thank you for being here in the City of Fountain. With that, I will call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
And Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. Congratulations. Item number 12.
Item number 12, hearing on the application by Come and Go LC, DBA Come and Go number 2232 for a fermented malt beverage and wine off-premises liquor license on the premises located at 304 Main Street, El Paso County. Commissioner District 4, continued from July 11th, 2023. Bridget Rowe, Clerk to the Board Specialist.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I believe this matter likely qualifies for an abbreviated hearing. If I could ask the Clerk to the Board a couple of questions.
Please proceed.
Ms. Rowe, has the applicant fulfilled all state and local requirements?
Yes, the applicant has fulfilled all state and local requirements.
Does the neighborhood survey support the needs and desires of the local community for the requested license?
Yes, the neighborhood survey supports the needs and desires of the local community.
Has any opposition been voiced against the issuance of the requested license?
To date, no opposition has been voiced to our office.
Is there any party in interest present at today's board hearing to formally oppose the issuance of the requested license?
Are there any in the audience here to oppose this license application? Hearing none?
And back to Ms. Rowe, has the sheriff's investigation revealed any criminal history relevant to the issuance of a liquor license?
No, no criminal history relevant was found.
Madam Chair, in my opinion, this matter qualifies for an abbreviated hearing.
Okay. Is there consent of my colleagues to proceed with an abbreviated hearing?
Move to approve for an abbreviated hearing.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf?
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Let's proceed with an abbreviated hearing for item number 12.
Hi, Madam Chair. My name is Chris Burton. I'm a area supervisor for Come and Go. Just here to answer any questions that I can for you guys about our operations or about our business as we apply for the liquor license.
Thank you for being here
Laura
today.
Martinez. Hi, sorry about that. My name is Laura Martinez. I'm counsel for Come and Go. So I do want to go ahead and enter my appearance. And if y'all have specific questions for Mr. Burton, he can answer them. If you want me to walk him through prepared testimony, we can do that as well. However you all would like to proceed. And also present is Eva Gerritsen from Liquor Pros.
Thank you for being here with us today. Are there any questions? Commissioner Gonzalez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just kind of like to hear the results of the survey. Thanks.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the authority. For the record, my name is Eva Gerritsen. I am one of the owners of Liquor Licensing Professionals doing business as Liquor Pros. We are a professional survey company conducting needs and desire surveys for both liquor and marijuana licenses throughout the entire state of Colorado. We are also listed as a responsible vendor trainer for the state of Colorado under Liquor Enforcement Division. We conducted this need and desire survey for the new fermented malt beverage and wine off-premises liquor license for Come and Go number 2232, located at 304 Main Street in Colorado Springs. As you know from the map, this particular location is out on Security Widefield area, right on the Main Street area. Given the boundary area, we went ahead and we conducted this need and desire on Friday, June 16th, Monday, June 19th, Tuesday, June 20th, Thursday, June 22nd, and Sunday, June 25th. Trying to work our way around the weather this summer. That's always fun. Made attempted contacts with 986 business owners, managers, and residents. We've been a surveyor for Come and Go for quite some time. This particular location, what we did as well as we went ahead and we carried around an information sheet that we've received from Come and Go, gives factual information about who they are, what they do, where they come from, and should they have any questions or concerns, we actually invite them to the public hearing here today. If they want to take a photo of the first page of our petition sheets, that actually has the hearing information. We also let them know that the premises is posted with the hearing information as well. Of the 986, we obtained a total of 147 signatures. Of businesses, we obtained 25 signatures, 23 signed in favor at 92%, and 2 with no opinion at 8%. We then had 122 residential signatures, 95 signing in favor at 78%, 14 opposed at 11%, and 13 with no opinion. If we combine these totals, just the raw numbers of the paper petitions, we have 118 signatures signing in favor at 80%, 14 opposed at 10%, and 15 with no opinion. If we remove those, that actually bumps up that yes opinion to 89% and 14 who are opposed to this license. We do ask these folks to write in why they are in favor or opposed to this particular application so that we may provide the authority with more information. On page 2, we have 10 that declined to provide us a reason. 2 said no need. 1 stated that it takes business away from our local mom and pops, local stores. And 1 stated the size is too large, enough is enough, alcohol's everywhere. So we do count those that speak to the relevance of the need and desire. Those that don't, we may remove them if the authority chooses, which actually bumps us up to 91%. Pre-COVID, we had these types of liquor licenses, not including the wine, but just fermented malt beverage, that were an approval rate somewhere around like the low 70s, mid 70s of approval. Everybody wants a gas station there, not necessarily really caring about the liquor. It's not as fun as a restaurant or a tavern. And so the participation isn't as much as we usually get for those licenses. Post-COVID, these are actually bumping up. And since we've done the wine in the state of Colorado, that's actually, the numbers are going up. So I see a more preference towards actually having wine and beer offered in these locations, as was voted on. So the vacant landowners, we did receive those. And if we go back through those licenses or those numbers, we actually had 4 that were in favor, 3 opposed, and we had 5 that had no opinion in those. And if we combine those totals, we actually still have just raw numbers, 77% at 122 in favor, 17 opposed at 11%, and 20 with no opinion. Given the results of just the raw numbers, this still shows a positive need and desire for this particular license in this area. So we recommend approval. And I'd be happy to answer any further questions.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a kind of a general question that perhaps the gentleman here could answer. Maybe you would want to refer to council for it. But, one of the challenges we sometimes have in the community here is people that sell liquor. They have inadequate training, or they make some kind of mistake and they sell to a minor, and then we have them appear before us here again, in unfortunate circumstances. So I know Come and Go is a reputable company, but I just want to hear somebody tell me that you're going to have good training procedures, you're going to apply them, and you're going to make sure that you make every good faith effort to make sure that none of your employees are going to sell to minors.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
sir.
an important
ahead.
topic. Mr. Burton, let me lead you. Sorry about that. That's a very important topic. And Mr. Burton can go ahead and talk about the policies and procedures Come and Go has implemented to ensure compliance with Colorado liquor laws. As y'all may know, Come and Go operates about 100 stores in Colorado. They have implemented significant policies and procedures to ensure compliance because, it's a big deal when a company gets hit. So let me go ahead and walk Mr. Burton through that. Mr. Burton, can you go ahead and talk about Come and Go's training policies that they've implemented with their employees with regard to responsible alcohol service? And I don't hear anything.
Corporate social responsibility company. We're a family-owned company and have been since 1959 when we opened. Stuff that we do around age restricted, we take it to the highest standard in there. For shift leadership roles in there, we have knockout questions for people not of age to be able to sell. We still employ people through federal law or through state law below ages, but they're working our food program. So that's the first kind of line of defense in there, is make sure that we have people that are meet all the requirements there. Next, we have a really robust training in bars, which is a self-sting operation that we do. We also participate in WeCard. We've updated our register systems so that any, not just alcohol or wine, but any age-restricted product that comes across the counter, as soon as you scan it on our registers, it pops up a screen that will block you from taking any other actions, from tendering the sale or doing any of those things. Makes them scan the ID. If they can't, the one challenge we have with scanning IDs is the military IDs. We have a large concentration of military IDs down here. Those aren't scannable through the registers, so they can't override that to type in the date of birth in the event of a military ID, but the register system blocks it there. We also do those same trainings annually in there, and then that BARS Sting program is us paying a third-party company to come in and try to get us to sell. Sometimes they'll have an ID that expired. Sometimes they'll have somebody that just doesn't have their ID with them. Sometimes they'll have somebody that's underage, and they're really like testing us all the time. So every store every month gets this BARS Sting in there to make sure that we are being compliant in that. Those are some of the things that we've done to, you know, make sure that we're a responsible retailer in the communities that we serve.
So just so that it's clear, you talked about the WeCard online training, and that's training that all of your employees, all of Come and Go's employees have to do. Go ahead and elaborate what that training teaches them in regard to responsible alcohol service.
Absolutely. So in that web-based training, in Colorado Springs especially, we have centralized training stores. So if I'm hiring an associate for one store, they go to a training store where they're an extra associate. They go and get 5 solid days of training where they're not expected to like be continuously performing tasks for customer satisfaction, but they're actually driven on learning the job that they're doing. During that training, they'll go through that WBT. The WBT goes through, explains the state laws and why they are the way that they are, explains our policy to it, which as a fact, Come and Go has a 100% we ID everybody. So in years past, it had been, you know, under 60 or under 50 or whatever the state laws were. We've just moved to a complete corporate stance that anybody that's buying anything age restricted needs to be ID'd in there to just remove any of the you know misrepresentations and those things. And then it also gives them some training on how to spot fake IDs, you know, holograms on IDs and such, to make sure that they understand what our policy is and what the law requires for us to do as a retailer selling age restricted products.
And then is there any retraining on that WeCard system? If an employee works there for 20 years, are they ever going to be retrained?
They are retrained every year. In the event that a store does have some sort of violation because of an issue, then the staff gets retrained in that as well. So it's something that we can do ad hoc and we can push out if we feel like there's an opportunity. Somebody fails a BARS Sting, something like that. So our self-sting, we miss the mark, we can reassign that training, but every associate in the company will go through that training annually as well. So somebody with us in 20 years would have 20 trainings on that.
And then the second thing you mentioned was the BARS program. You described it as a self-sting program, and I just want to make sure the commissioners understand what that is. Is the BARS program a third-party company that Come and Go pays to come into their stores, I believe it's every month, to try and catch a employee in making an error in regards to responsible alcohol sales? For example, you know, not requesting an ID, selling to somebody underage, so on and so forth. Is that what that is?
Correct. So the BARS program is a third-party company that we use for that self-sting. And again, that's just to make sure that our training is being conducted, that our associates understand what the expectations are. And if there's something that's missed, like not scanning an ID, that we can coach that associate on those things.
And that BARS program, that's not something that's required by the city or the state. That's something that's Come and Go pays for out of their own pocket, despite it not being a requirement, to ensure that their employees are complying with Colorado law. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yep. That's a decision by the company leadership to make sure that we're operating responsibly within the communities we serve.
And if an employee has a violation with the BARS program, what happens?
So if somebody were to fail BARS Sting the first time that they do it, we'll go back and coach that associate and do a documented like reprimand form. If they were to fail a second one, they're terminated on the spot.
Great, thank you. I appreciate an explanation of that. And this program that Come and Go pays for people to come in and check the stores. That's interesting. I'm glad you do that. So I think that's initiative. I like it. So I just for whatever it's worth, you can keep talking if you want, but I feel like I'm satisfied with the question. So just thank you. It's important to all of us that we just, everything about it, right? Abiding by the laws, making sure we don't, cause problems for kids who are trying to produce a fake ID and go into these stores and do these kinds of things. It's just really important that these laws are abided by. So thanks.
Thank you very much. So are there any more questions or any further discussion on this item? It is in Commissioner District 4.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it. A good turnout on the numbers. I appreciate you highlighting some of the negatives because a little bit higher than I think normal on the negatives, but still well within the limits of strong support that I'd say overall when you take into account all the information. And so I'll be willing to support and we'll move to approve item 12.
I will second that. Very thorough application. Thank you.
Okay, any further comments? I just want to thank Liquor Pros actually for really facilitating, going above and beyond and facilitating people's opportunity to have input into this process too. That was the first time I've heard that, and that's impressive. Okay, with that, I will call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Congratulations. Item 12 passes 5-0. Item 13.
Item number 13, hearing on the application by Postal King LLC, DBA Black Forest Postal Services for a fermented malt beverage and wine off-premises liquor license on the premises located at 11425 Black Forest Road, Suite 4, El Paso County. Commissioner District 2, Bridget Rowe, Clerk to the Board Specialist.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I believe this one likely requires for an abbreviated hearing as well. If I could roll through the same questions with Ms. Rowe.
Please proceed.
All right. Bridget, has the applicant fulfilled all state and local requirements?
Yes, the applicant has fulfilled all state and local requirements.
Does the neighborhood survey support the needs and desires of the local community for the requested license?
Yes, the neighborhood survey supports the local community needs and desires.
Has any opposition been voiced against the issuance of the requested license?
To date, our office has not received any opposition.
Question for the audience. Is there any party in interest at today's hearing to formally oppose the issuance of the requested license?
Is there anyone present in the audience today to oppose this application? Or online? Hearing none.
And another for the clerk to the board. Has the sheriff's investigation revealed criminal history relevant to the issuance of a liquor license?
The investigation revealed no criminal history relevant to the issuance of a license.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I believe this matter qualifies for an abbreviated hearing.
I know this is in Commissioner Geithner's district, but I think I've been in this store before because you also sell stamps and do post office stuff. So I will go ahead and move for an abbreviated hearing.
I'll second.
That has been moved and seconded to proceed with an abbreviated hearing. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Please proceed with an abbreviated hearing.
Madam Chair, I can go first if you prefer. So yes, you are correct, Commissioner Williams. Post office with a liquor license. This is a first I've heard in our entire state. And we've seen a lot of things. You know, we have axe throwing with liquor. We did, a couple of years ago, we did a liquor license for a plant nursery where if you have a sick plant, you bring your plant in and you sit down, you repot it, you have a beer or a glass of wine, and you reestablish your relationship with that plant. So I've seen quite a bit. We've done a mortuary in Boulder for wakes and everything. So yeah, it's been really unique with alcohol, the things that we've seen, but this is the first.
So
I've seen of
truthfully,
this.
I can understand the wakes, but the axe throwing, I never quite understood why you would mix that with,
Mills Outlet Mall in Lakewood actually has a gun, a small firearm range. We got a liquor license so I'm knocking on doors saying, hey, guns and alcohol, you want to sign up? So yeah, it's been interesting. So, but this is the very first one. And we actually handled Black Forest Brewery in the same area back in 2017. Actually mirrored similar results. We had 53 signatures back then, and we have 55 now. So the community in that area has been very supported. They're very on top of what they want in there, very informed, very willing to participate in the surveys of this nature. So we conducted the Needs and Desires Survey for Black Forest Postal Services, located at 11425 Black Forest Road, Suite 4 in Colorado Springs. Once again, they're looking for their fermented malt beverage and wine retailer off-premise liquor license. Conducted this Needs and Desires on Thursday, July 20th, Saturday, July 22nd, and Sunday, July 23rd. Given the type of area, this is a drive and drop situation. So what we try and do is make sure that we pay attention to those signs, that if they do not want trespassing onto their property, we simply do not engage. They pay to have their privacy, and we like to respect that. We made attempted contacts with 167 business owners, managers, and residents in that area, and once again attained a total of 55 signatures. 9 were from business owners and managers. All 9 signed in favor at 100%. 46 residential signatures, 30 signed in favor at 65%, 10 opposed at 22%, and 6 with no opinion at 13%. If we combine these totals, just the raw numbers, we have 71% signing in favor with 39 signatures, 18% opposed with 10 signatures, and 6 with no opinion at 11%. If we remove the no opinion, that actually bumps the yes up to 80% and 20% opposed. Once again, we do ask those folks to write in why they are in favor or opposed to this license. 5 declined to provide a reason. 2 stated there was enough or too many in the area. 2 supported local liquor store, and 1 stated there's a liquor store across the street. Once again, the last 2 not necessarily speaking to the needs and desires. So if we remove those, if the authority allows, we can actually bump those up to 85% in favor and 15% opposed. We did make sure that we contacted the other outlets, invited them once again to the hearing if they had any questions, concerns, or contact the clerk to the board if they had any additional questions. But looking at the 85%, once again, this actually shows a positive need and desire. Given the fact that it's a smaller area but more tight-knit community, these folks were very very familiar with the business and supported that in a way. So we do feel that even just the 80% still shows a positive need and desire for this liquor license in this area.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I think I'd love to hear from the business owners. Anything you'd like to tell us about your business, your application, and we'll go from there.
Well, excuse me, we own 4 different postal services here in the community. Black Forest is a little unique, as Commissioner Williams said. We actually are a convenience store conjunction with the post office itself. I know Commissioner Gonzalez because I'm also the Director of Mail Operations at Peterson Space Force Base, so I'm aware of that. We just feel that there is a need before we even started this. The liquor store that's a little bit away from us, I approached the owners and didn't want to step on any toes and said, hey, is this something? They said, Ron, as long as we're meeting the needs of the community, let's go ahead. And we have no problems with that. So, and I know since then, they've sold the business to their family, next generation. So we don't have any problems with that. So that's kind of why we decided to go ahead and move forward with this.
Any further questions from commissioners? Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just ask the same question that I asked of the previous applicant. We've occasionally, just as a reiteration, we've occasionally had some people selling malt beverages have a violation because they sold to minors. So what do you have in place to prevent that from happening here?
Well, currently, Commissioner Vanderwerf, great question, and my wife told me he's going to ask you the same question. So
she is accurate.
She's probably better at this than I am. Basically, the first thing is we are post office first. And so we also have a lottery license with the state. So we're aware of, looking for IDs for underage. We will also be getting training from Liquor Pro. They offer a training program, and we'll also follow up with the state training programs just so that our clerks, we have 2 full-time clerks that basically work with us, and we're kind of like the oversight. Our biggest fear from our clerks is selling to underage kids. And so we take that very seriously. I don't foresee us IDing folks that we know that are in their 60s and 70s, but we definitely will be IDing anybody that looks under 30. And, if you got gray hair, you get a pass from us, more or less. But other than that, we definitely want to make sure that, we're well in law. We have the support of the deputies in the sheriff's department. We talked to them before we did this because we don't we don't need any underage drinking and parties out there. And again, this is more, it's not an on the premises thing, so we're not worried about that so much. But we also take responsibility. Like one of the things that we let folks know, we can mail handguns out of the post office out there, but we just as soon not do it because we don't want to take that responsibility with the licenses and stuff. So we do send them into town to the Briargate station. So we definitely feel like we do have the assumption of the responsibility, and that's just where we are with it.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions for this applicant? Okay. Commissioner Geithner?
This is barely in your district. This is one of the areas I'm trying to get back in the redistricting process. So if you want to make the motion, I'll second it.
Sure. I just want to start with a few comments here that I really appreciate. That Black Forest is a very unique area. This may be a unique liquor license, but it's not completely surprising to me that we have a small store that provides so many different services for those residents because it's a small area and reminds me very much of an area that I grew up in that had a lot of services that you may not see combined in other places. So I appreciate that you are serving your community well and want to make sure that that community is safe as well. And I'm happy to move approval of this item.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. Any further comments? I'll just say I think this is a clear example of market-driven, and I wish you the best in your business, and I'll call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Congratulations. That passes 5-0. Item 14.
Item number 14, Department and Committee Reports, Non-Action Items. 14A, Quarterly Budget Presentation to BOCC, June 2023, Q2 Sales and Use Tax Report, May 2023. Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer.
Ms. Simmons.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer. Happy August and Colorado Day. Can't believe it's August already. So we're here with the June 2023 budget report, as well as the sales and use tax presentations. So for the month of June, there are several items on the general fund unrestricted revenue report that I wanted to point out to you all. The first, sales and use tax collections are down compared to budget, $4 million. We will talk more about that when we talk to the sales and use tax in more detail. I do want to point out the actual, the percentage to budget there, 85.7%. That's only the general fund unrestricted portion because the entire variance goes to the general fund unrestricted budget. And so whether that variance is positive to budget or negative to budget, it all goes against the general fund budget. And so I wanted to point that out this time because that number is significant. But when you look at the rest of the budgets where sales and use tax is allocated to, which is your road and bridge fund, your human services fund, and your capital fund, as well as self-insurance fund, all of those get 100% of what they're budgeted for. So the whole variance comes here. So we're not just at 85% of our budget overall for sales tax. So I'll talk more to that when we get to the sales and use tax presentation. Clerk and recorder fees. In talking with Mr. Schleicher, a lot of that has to do with the recording office. And when interest rates are as high as they are right now at the federal level, that obviously affects mortgage rates. And a lot of the revenue and fees that come through the clerk and recorder's office is directly tied to the recording department and the transactions there. And a lot of that is primarily driven by home buying, but more than that, for the fees in that office, it is driven by refinancing. So when people refinance their mortgages and file that recorded deed, that the lien on the house, that is what creates the fees in that office. And so that is 100% due to higher interest rates. At that same token, that means that the interest rates we're receiving on our investments, the cash in the bank that we have, is significantly higher than budget. And as you can see towards the bottom of this report, the budget for the year was $1.5 million, and through half of the year, we've already received $7.5 million variance. So we've received right at $8 million of actual revenue in interest. So we do have offsetting fees to compensate for that lack of fees coming through the clerk and recorder's office. I also wanted to show the sheriff's office. They have more revenues coming in at this time in their enforcement units. They also are housing inmates through the state, and so their revenues are on track for the year. And those are the only things I wanted to point out on this report, besides to remember that we did reserve funds in the budget for a possible Tabor excess. And so these funds are in addition to that. And so we're currently at positive $3.3 million positive variance to budget. That would not at this point add to our Tabor excess. On, excuse me, on the expenditure side of the general fund unrestricted budget, we currently show a positive variance to budget of $24 million. And while that's a very large number, the primary portion of that has to do with projects that are currently in process. So we have a lot of large projects going on in the county. And due to several reasons, partially just the size of the projects, but also supply chain issues and vendor availability, a lot of those projects are in process. Purchase orders have been issued, but payments have not been made because the work is not substantially complete. So I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of where that underspending currently is coming from. That will not be true underspending at the end of the year. Those budgets are being spent and are needed. There's $4.4 million in our IT department for major projects in process, including our ERP conversion, the major conversion with the treasurer's and assessor's office, as well as other software and hardware that's on order. Our facilities department has $4 million of that's in process on major projects such as elevators and other building repairs. Our fleet department has $4.9 million encumbered for major fleet things, including fuel island upgrades, as well as heavy fleet purchases, which are about 18 months out from when we order them. right now with the supply chains. And so about almost $2 million of that number is things that we have ordered, which is going to be coming in possibly the end of this year, or even maybe into next year. But we had to have the current budget in order to order it, correct? We also have $1.7 million in stormwater that's in that budget, in which we have projects in process on. After all those things that I named, we leave $8 million in underspending at this point, and 5 of that is directly tied to restricted funds that we are utilizing to offset our general fund, and where we have ability to draw down restricted sources of things that were budgeted. And we're intentionally doing that, trying to save money to be able to address other infrastructure needs in our budget in 2024. Our road and bridge budget is coming in very close to budget on the revenue side. You'll see the highway user taxes is coming in a little bit lower than budgeted, about 2.5% lower than budgeted. We have worked closely with CCI to come up with different estimates for 2024 and forward. Those estimates are usually a little bit closer than that, but with the implementation of the new fees a couple years ago, there was some inflated estimates on what that would bring in through the highway user taxes, and those aren't coming in as high, so our allocation is less. And then our specific ownership tax is higher than budget by about 16% or $600,000, and all of that funding goes directly into our is budgeted to go directly into our road and bridge fund to fund roads. And the number I pay most attention to on this report for expenditures is this subtotal here of our operating expenditures. That's the budgeted funds going into roads for the year. And we're sitting at 93%. This is a great place to be. There's a lot of progress being made on the roads. With the additional funding we put in the budget for 2023, those projects are in process, and we have pavement being done across the county. And then the other portion where this underspending is here is these are major projects that are reappropriated from collateral forfeitures as well as other federal projects. And all of those projects it's tied to specific projects, and they are all in process. Your human services budget is running really close to budget when you look at the net variance. So $434,000 when we have already expended $40 million or $44 million. We will be coming back with a resolution to recognize additional revenue and expenditures that have come through the Human Services Fund shortly to true some of this up as we're able to fill more vacancies and spend down more of our allocations in human services. Our Capital Improvement Fund had no activity for expenditures in June. The next payment you'll see will be paid in November to pay our annual COP obligations, as well as one of them will be our final payment on the regional building office. That will be paid off this year. Our risk side of the self-insurance fund is doing well at the moment. I do understand we'll have additional expenditures coming through here, which we are prepared for. You'll see at the bottom here, we have a $2.5 million spendable fund balance. This is above and beyond our reserve for what we call the IBNRs, which is the incurred but not reported expenditures, which means we work with actuaries to come up with estimates of what could possibly be the liabilities that are sitting out for the county. We reserve those first, and then these are the reserves after those incurred but not reported requirements. So we have $2.5 million currently available in that fund balance. On the self-insurance for the health trust, we are trending above budget. And we're working very closely with our consultants to know why we, the last time I updated on this, I had been told and I reiterated to this board that they thought this might reverse itself when we got some stop loss revenues in, as well as just these were one-time expenditures. It now looks like this might be ongoing increased costs. And so Our consultants at one point were advised to revise the budget for the rest of the year. I didn't at that point want to do that because I want to make sure we continue to report on what we estimated. We will have to come back and revise this budget to be within budget law, that we will overspend this. But again, you'll see at the bottom here, we still have $4.4 million of spendable fund balance on top of our IBNR, because there's an IBNR for risk as well as for health trust. We started the year with a $5 million, we started the year with an $8.6 million reserve, and we anticipated ending the year with a $6.4 million reserve. We may need to spend into that this year, or we most likely will have to spend into some of that this year, but that's why those reserves are there, and I'm comfortable with that. On the general fund restricted business unit, the one thing I wanted to point out here, you'll see this is the first report where you'll see the opioid funding is on here. We received $4.9 million as the fiscal agent for the Region 16 opioid council. And this is funding that is under the direction of that council, which is made up of a lot of representatives from across our region to combat the opioid crisis. And this funding does not count against our Tabor cap. It is the result of a lawsuit, which is specifically exempt from Tabor. And we are just the fiscal agent for this. The one place this will affect our budget is we'll be coming with a resolution we did come with a resolution to recognize this revenue in July. So right now you'll see it's showing as a variance to budget. That resolution was passed in July. So the next time you see this report, that'll be in the budget line as well. So that variance will no longer be over there, which gave us the authority to spend it on behalf of that opioid council. On the restricted general fund expenditures, I'll just note that the public safety tax, we've already expended $17.9 million through the end of June. And the revenue, I skipped the page before, we've received $14.4 million. So we are spending into that fund balance, which is intentional, and a plan on the sheriff's side to do some projects within the sheriff's office. The Conservation Trust Fund, you'll see that we're at 163% of projected revenues. This is directly from the GOCO funds or lottery funds. This is a portion of the lottery proceeds, and the lotteries have been fairly large this year. And so when that happens, we get more money. And so I'm working closely with our Parks Director to identify the opportunities to make the most of this money. I think Todd March, your Parks Director, is really great about making the most of the funding that he does get, to use it as matches for things, to try to draw down as much money to make this money go a lot further to get some of our parks' major capital needs accomplished. And so that's the plan with this excess money. A lot of the ongoing budgeted money goes towards maintenance of the parks, and this is how we fund a lot of the maintenance in our parks.
Could you quickly reiterate whether this is subject to Tabor or not?
This is not subject to Tabor. There's a specific court case, and that very clearly calls out the GOCO funds are not subject to Tabor.
Thank you.
Your school's trust fund had no activity during the month of June. In fact, should not have any expenditure activity for the rest of the year, as we have already expended or sent out the funds that the school districts requested for the year. So we will next see activity on this. The beginning of next year, we'll resend out those letters. The Household Hazardous Waste Fund, you can see tipping fees are down slightly. But the interest on investments is making up for a little bit of that. So we're at 92.4%. You can see our disposable bag fees. This is the first time you're seeing this. We put out what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry. A discretionary optional remittance of those fees to some larger entities this year. Under the law that the state passed put that disposable bag fee in place the beginning of 2023. And that fee is 10 cents, of which 6 cents goes to the local government and 4 cents is kept by the retailer. The law said that they don't have to remit those fees to the local government until April of 2024, so next year. And so we didn't budget for anything. And then we found out that was actually just a typo in the law. So the law says you don't have to do it until 2024, but they really meant 2023. Some of the larger vendors that are in unincorporated El Paso County were like, hey, can we just give you the fees so it doesn't sit on our books until we don't want to submit a year and a quarter's worth. We'd rather just give it to you every quarter. So this is the first amount that's coming into this household hazardous waste fund. And it has to be used for recycling activities, which is what this fund is for to begin with. And so it's a perfect fit in here. Although it's not a fee that we imposed, it was mandated onto us by the state. And this is these entities filing that discretionarily until they're required to the beginning of next year.
So are you saying that's $640?
$640. And remember, only the larger retailers have to comply with this. So small businesses, if you have less than 3 locations, you have less than a certain amount of sales, and I'm sorry, I don't know that exact number, don't have to charge for bags. So you go to a lot of those small businesses, you don't have to. So you're only talking about your larger retailers with multiple locations. One of the larger retailers in eastern El Paso County, and we're only dealing with unincorporated, is Walmart, who has declined to even sell disposable bags. So in all the Walmarts in Colorado, you don't have the choice of purchasing a disposable bag, so there's not fees there. So you're only dealing with a couple of stores in eastern El Paso County that this applies to. And then the local improvement district, which is your Falcon Vista LID, so far year to date has $74,000 in revenue and $37,000 of expenditures to pay down the bonds in that area. Are there any additional questions?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. On the last chart, just kind of curious. So principal and interest, you had a budget of 33. Oh, and I'm sorry, I thought I read 26, but it's 36. So it's a little bit higher here. But then on some of the other charts, principal and interest was a lot higher.
This is an expenditure of principal and interest. This is us paying the bond payment that we issued the Falcon Vista LID like in 2007. I might be off on that year.
You're right. That's on the expenditure line.
Exactly. Yeah. So the interest up here is actually this is probably the opposite as well. It's $175, but they try very hard. The treasurer's office manages this for us, and they try very hard to pay down that principal as soon as they're able to utilize up the funds, so that not a lot of cash sits in that account. And so they use this as because it's a special revenue bond. So as soon as this revenue comes in, they try to pay payments down on that bond to get it paid down as soon as they can.
And I was going to reserve this second question for the end, but I might as well just ask it now since we're talking about interests. The other interest line, and you don't have to go back to the chart, but I think it was 7.9 million. Wow. I mean, that's a lot. So what's the basis from the collection of that interest? Like, how much do we have in a variety of accounts that got us 7.9 million in interest? And these are reserve accounts and unexpended funds and what have you, but.
Correct. So it's all of our funds together. So we have a policy that all of our interest on any accounts goes into the general fund and restricted unless it's otherwise legally required to go somewhere else. And so there's any unexpended grant funds, any unexpended county funds. Through the beginning of the year, you have a lot more money in the county's accounts while we've collected all of our property taxes by June, but we haven't expended the funds because we have the rest of the year to do that. And so based on trending of that, unless interest rates go up, I don't expect that to be double the second half of the year, but it is significant compared to where we used to have. Right now, we have significant funds in our accounts. We are holding on to still I can tell you the number, about $65 million of the American Rescue Plan, which is it's in our general fund restricted account, but it's not separately invested. And so that's part of that. So there's a huge basis in our cash accounts that is creating that.
Okay. And then, we certainly have these challenges with increased valuation of homes and so forth. And I know that we're not going to be one of the culprits with regard to increased property taxes, but mine went up significantly. It went up so much that I had to change my mortgage payment to a higher number because it exceeded what I was actually paying. But the reason why I'm asking the question is, it may be too early to give an answer, but there's two laws. We have the Tabor law and then we have the 5.5% law. Do you know which of those two are most likely to be implemented here for El Paso County? Can't speak to the others, but for us.
Yeah, so most likely, I think Tabor will be more restrictive for next year because it all has to do with where the CPI lands compared to the 5.5%. And at this point, and I actually meant to mention this earlier, the Department of Local Affairs and the State Budget Office just announced their forecast for CPI. They update it quarterly. Their forecast just came out last week. And right now, the average expectation is 4.65% for Colorado for 2023. So if that trend stays there and that forecast is accurate, the Tabor law would be the more restrictive of the two requirements.
What's interesting, I think they're talking about 4.65% on inflation, but gosh, groceries and gasoline are a lot more than 4.65%. So there must be other things that are just not going up to balance that off.
There are a lot of things that aren't going up as high as groceries are. In fact, our county administrator and I talk about this a lot, especially when it comes to our employees and their ability to pay their bills. Going to the grocery store right now is exponentially expensive. I feel like I used to be able to walk out of there with, a week's worth of groceries for $165. And now if it's less than $300, I'm like, whew, got out of there cheap today, right? And it's a lot of money. But there are things, and Commissioner, I don't have the information in front of me, but I'd be more than happy to grab that information from the department, the census, or it's not the census, it's the Consumer Affairs, and sit down and go through that with you if you'd like some more information on where that CPI is coming in at.
Just at your convenience, that'd be great. What I'm looking for is what's offsetting, what citizens and myself tend to see that seems to be much higher than 4.65%, which is groceries and gasoline. What are the things that are offsetting that keep it at 4.6%?
So what I can tell you is one of the things that I have seen in the articles I've read from the economists that are putting these together is, we saw such an exponential increase in housing prices, and we know that they have dropped since June of 2022, and that would go into it as well. So we have some negatives in housing that goes into that calculation. So the big, huge jumps in housing that happened the prior 2 years, those went into the high inflation that we had. The inflation number of the 8.1% that it ended up being last year. And now with the housing prices leveling off and sometimes in many places a slight decrease, that goes into that calculation as well. But I can get you more information on where we're at with the CPI and how those numbers are being calculated.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Williams.
I just wanted to thank you and Lori and the budget office and for taking care. I know as our sales tax revenues start to come in lower, it can be kind of challenging. We receive at the Pikes Peak RTA every month, if they're available, the sales tax chart, and we've been watching the trend as it's going down as well. And so we appreciate you keeping a close eye on our budget so that we stay within our budgeted expenses as we get towards the end of the year. Thank you.
I appreciate those comments, Commissioner. I will tell you, our budget office watches that very closely in conjunction with our county administrator. We meet a lot about the future of our budget and where we're at with our reserves, our projections. We are comfortable with where our budget is now, even though our sales tax is slightly lower than we projected. We have a lot of things in place to keep our budget healthy and in a good projection for the future. We're in the middle of the budget process right now to create the 2024 preliminary balanced budget, and we're in a very good spot to continue the operations that we had this year, plus be able to provide for other critical needs into 2024. So we're going to continue to monitor that as we get more months of sales tax in before we actually present that preliminary balanced budget, which will be in the beginning of October. But right now, I'm fairly optimistic about a healthy budget for 2024. It won't, we're not going to see large increases. One, we're always subject to Tabor limitations. And we do anticipate, I think I mentioned earlier in this presentation, being over our Tabor revenue cap this year. And so we're anticipating a slight, or not, I wouldn't say a slight, but it wouldn't be in the realm of what we've seen the last 2 years. But we are anticipating being over our Tabor cap in 2023. And so that will carry forward into 2024.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my question relates to our pots of money for roads. We had, or infrastructure, we had various with the flooding and damage 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, serious, costs associated with having to repair that, I believe, in the low, but a couple of $1 million. So my question is, how are we paying for that? Is it going to be in next year's budget and taken care of next year? Is there funds to address that? Is it, well, we are limited by the amount of money we can still spend this year because of Tabor, so we're just going to not pave, 5 miles of road to pay for the infrastructure? I'd like to know what the fund is. There underspending that can be used to pay for the repairs and the damage that we saw from the flooding, or are we going to have to take some reserves or not? I mean, this is a decision, or are we going to miss out somewhere else? Because I don't want to reduce roads construction to pay for something. I'd like to, find out what those options are before the end of the year.
Commissioner, great question. And I've actually had several conversations with our Public Works Director as well as his finance manager to go through this. The answer, hopefully to answer your question, one, no amount was coming from the allocation that we gave to the road construction budget. So we're not going to see all those contracts are already in process. We're not decreasing any of them. Right now, our contracts that we've entered into to help address the road damage from the disaster has totaled out of pocket about $600,000. The millions of dollars number that you're hearing is usage of equipment. So FEMA has rates when we take our graders out, when we take whatever equipment out, when we take the water trucks out, there's a per hour rate to address that. So the couple $1 million in road damage includes that. So that's not coming out. There's no cash outlay at this point besides the depreciation on those vehicles. The one thing our Public Works Director did pass on to me is the difference you're going to see in road maintenance is that we had to pull some of the crews that were working on the gravel roads. So the normal gravel road maintenance, those crews had to be redeployed to work on the road damage. And so you might see at the end of the year when they do their end of year report of the number of miles that we were able to maintain with like the BOMAG machine and the gravel reclaimer, those miles might be lower because they were redeployed for a couple of weeks or even a month. But the overall maintenance and repairs to our roads should not be affected. We are still gathering information. We have not yet made a final decision to recommend something to this board to appropriate something from the emergency reserve, but I think that would be the perfect opportunity if that's the will of the board. That money was not currently budgeted. We don't keep emergency reserves in the Road and Bridge Fund, and so we would be able to utilize the reserve that this board has put in place to be able to help this county be prepared for items like this. And so we're still gathering the information on what that would all take to come forward if that's necessary. And that's for parks as well as our roads. Does that answer your question, Commissioner?
Yes, I just want to make sure that if we have to do an allocation so that we're not reducing our ability to meet what we had planned for roads and parks, that this decision gets done early enough where, oh, yes, we do want to fund from emergency reserves or not, but that's a decision. It's early enough that can be allocated and completed versus an end of year, and now you're out of time and it'll still be into next year's budget. So I just want to make sure, it looks like you're looking into it and planning for it. I just want to make sure that we have all options taken care of so that we are not reducing our roads maintenance.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, I wanted to do one quick confirmation and clarification that that streams of revenue, areas of our budget that are highly dependent and on state revenues, for example, Department of Human Services and the Health Department, which has its own budget. Those state revenue streams, they are budgeted on a fiscal year that ended June 30th. And unlike the county's overall budget, which is on the calendar year. And so you'll start to see out of some of those budgets, and you may have already seen it at the Health Department, you'll start to see kind of end of year stuff, and just know that there are certain, if it's a state funding stream majority, that it's on a state fiscal year to align with their funding. And if it's El Paso County General Fund, we budget on a calendar year. Did I say that?
That's absolutely correct. And so, like, for example, on the DHS side, when we budget for the calendar year for the DHS program, we can budget the second half of the state's fiscal year, knowing what we are for sure our allocations are, and then we have to estimate what our allocations are going to be for that second half of the year, which is the first half of the state's next fiscal year. And we do that across the board with any state-funded program. We also have several programs that are fully on federal fiscal years, which are an October 1 start. And so we deal with several October 1 dates, mostly state dates, and then the primary, obviously, is our calendar year for the county, which I mean, just a side note, super interesting to me. Counties are required to be on a calendar year, even though we're subdivisions of the state, which is on a July 1 to June 30 fiscal year. So I always think that that's interesting as subdivisions of the state that we're not on the same year, but we're not.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify percent of actual to year that you would see in different charts using the same funds. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. And so I do have the sales and use tax presentation that I can go through very quickly. And as you saw in this presentation, that is down compared to budget. So this is the May 2023 sales and use tax report. For anybody who's watching who doesn't hear me say this every month, this is the most recent information that we have, which is May consumer activity that is sent and reported to the state of Colorado Department of Revenue during the month of June, which they then give to us during July. So this is the most current information that we have regarding sales and use taxes in our county. The retail collections that come through the Department of Revenue were down 1.83% for the month of May. So cumulatively down 2.14% year to date. Use tax on automobiles, which comes through the clerk and recorder's office, was up 3.66% for the month of June, up 3.72% year to date. We talked to the clerk and recorder's office about what's going on here, and a lot of this, there's some newer cars. There's actually finally some inventory coming in of new cars. You're starting to see car ads again on the television. And so this might be a sign of the supply chain getting better. I think it's a little too soon to make that prediction, but we watch this pretty closely to see what's going on. Most automobile tax, if it's purchased within El Paso County, is collected through the dealer, and that shows up on that first page in the retail report. This is only cars that we either purchased out of county. So if you go to a Denver dealership, purchase a new car up there, or private sales are collected, the taxes are collected through the clerk and recorder's office. The sales tax on building materials, the use tax, up 26.9% for the month of June, so cumulatively down 15.17% year to date. As you can see, the first 3 months, the last time I gave you this report, we were down 61%. And then each month after that has been up significantly over that month the year before. And so watching this trend very closely, there's a lot of construction going on in our area and people pulling permits. And so we're hopeful that this is a sign that the economy and construction is a little bit better than we anticipated at the beginning of the year. And then, so when you combine all three of those pages together for the month of May, we were up 0.9%, but still down 2.42% year to date. If you remember, our budget for the year was to be up 3%. And so when you look to the variance to budget, we are down 6% compared to budget, which is $4 million. And this is where I wanted to point out on that first page when I showed you the budget report, and it said we were only at 85% of his budget. It's because the entire $4 million variance goes against the amount that we allocated to general fund unrestricted. So general fund unrestricted takes the positive variance or the negative variance, however it comes in, and all the rest of the funds get 100% of what they were supposed to get regardless. And so this is the true variance to budget, which is 6.06% below budget. And that's all I have for you today. There's more information on our website if people want to go through and look at the industry by industry sales tax numbers to see where we're at year to date. That is out there. I think it's great information, but you know, I like data and numbers, so I love it. And it's out there if anybody else wants to look at it.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. You know, looking at this chart, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I don't know if you can count 5 months to say you have a real trend, but it certainly looks like the economy has softened up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that we definitely don't have the kind of strength in the economy here in 2023 that we had in 2022, which I find really, really interesting.
Yeah. And to look at the strength of the economy, I would look at this page a little bit more than the other one. The other one is compared to what we forecasted. And so, you know, we can always be off in our forecasts. This one is the actual, like these are the actual numbers. We're down 2.42% compared to last year through 5 months. And so every month was coming in -5, -3, -4, and then we went up 0.9. So I'm a little optimistic, but we're going to continue to watch that.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay.
Thank you, commissioners.
If I could just ask one question, sorry about that.
Commissioner Guy-Nuri.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am a little curious as we're looking through sales tax and we're looking through some of those fees as well for the clerk and recorder's office and talking about new vehicles. One of the things I know that we've seen in the area and in past years where we've had a lot of hail is that we tend to see obviously people having insurance replacements of vehicles. Also, I know that's something we talk about a lot at regional building in terms of you know, the need for roofs. So are you hearing anything? I know you always say your crystal ball is broken, but I do know that there have been significant storms that we've seen and a lot of people talking about processing those types of claims. Are you hearing anything about how the potential for many new vehicles and or those roof replacements, how we might see that affecting both sales tax collection and some of those fees as well through the clerk and recorder's office?
Yeah, so we will see a slight increase in fees just because of that. And obviously that's not the way that we want fees to be generated. But every time there is a hail event such as this, which happens every couple of years, we will see a slight uptick in the realm of maybe $100,000 in sales tax. We did look into that because those building materials, that roofing material is taxable. And so we do assess our 1% tax, 1.23% tax, and that 0.23 goes to public safety. The clerk and recorder's office does get involved with the titles on vehicles. And so but there's only a slight fee that gets kept at the clerk and recorder's office. So I don't see a notable change in the fees when we have the hail storms through the DMV. And if anyone's looking for like a birthday present for me, a new crystal ball would be great. You know, that'd be awesome. No? I would like a crystal ball that works because as I've been telling you, mine's
I thought
broken.
you were going to ask for a new car.
I mean, I just didn't want to push my luck and get it, yeah.
All right, any further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, commissioners.
Item 15.
Item number 15 is the addendum, and there is no addendum.
Item 16.
Item number 16 is executive session. 16A, pursuant to CRS 246402-4B and E, the County Attorney's Office is requesting an executive session regarding litigation filed by Elizabeth Naranjo as personal representative to the estate of Cristo Canet and the next of kin, U.S. District of Colorado Court Case Number 2023 CV01211. The purposes of the executive session include 1, conference with the county attorney's office for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions related to a litigation matter, and 2, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators. Nathan Whitney, First Assistant County Attorney. Brian Schmid, Senior Assistant County Attorney. 16B, pursuant to CRS 246402 4B and E, the County Attorney's Office is requesting an executive session regarding a notice of claim from Kilmer Lane and Newman regarding the June 9, 2022 suicide of Desiree Archuleta. The purposes of the executive session include 1, conference with the County Attorney's Office for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions related to potential litigation matters, and 2, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators. Nathan Whitney, First Assistant County Attorney. Stephen Martin, Assistant County Attorney. 16C, pursuant to CRS 246402 4B and E, the County Attorney's Office is requesting an executive session regarding litigation filed by Philip Jensen, U.S. District of Colorado Court Case Number 2023 CV01605. The purposes of the executive session include 1, conference with the County Attorney's Office for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions related to potential litigation matters, and 2, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators. Nathan Whitney, First Assistant County Attorney. Stephen Martin, Assistant County Attorney. 16D, pursuant to CRS 246402 4B and E, the County Attorney's Office is requesting an executive session regarding a notice of claim filed by the estate of William Johnson. The purposes of the executive session include conference with the County Attorney's Office for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions related to potential litigation matters, and 2, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators. Nathan Whitney, First Assistant County Attorney. Mary Geringer, Senior Assistant County Attorney.
I move we go into executive session for the purposes stated on the record.
I'll second. Oh, sorry.
That has been moved and seconded. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We will go into executive session at 11:20.